Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Basketball Show. I'm your host, George Michalowski with Pittsburgh Sports Now. And today I bring on a very special guest, Colby Giacubeno from 24/7 Sports. He's the DMV guy. He's the one to know for all things Baltimore, D.C., DMV recruiting. Colby, thanks for joining me, man.
George, thanks for having me. I love the work that you do and definitely follow it very closely. And with your neck of the woods with Pittsburgh getting involved in the DMV, we might be talking a lot more here coming up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we've seen the DMV connections for Pitt over the past few years. Ish Leggett from St. John's on the roster right now. Obviously, Bub Carrington, a guy who you followed very closely. I think I saw you or may have seen you at another Bub event, but at one of his games at St. Francis in his senior year. But anyways, we've got two big time DMV prospects on Pitt's radar right now. You're the guy to ask about them. I'm going to start, first of all, with Omari Witherspoon, a guy who is making his decision tomorrow on Wednesday, September 11th, 5 p.m. live on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Last time there was a Pitt prospect a Pitt target who committed on 24/7. It turned out pretty good, Bub Carrington. So, Colby, with Omari Witherspoon, what are you going to see from him on the court? For a Pitt fan who's never seen him play, like what is there to expect from him skill set wise?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, man, with Amari. Just kind of his rise in the time frame in which he did so, his build, his length, just in those terms, like 'cause people are going to throw this out a lot, as time goes on, but he kind of reminds you of Bub in that sense.
Right.
Um, Not the same type of game. Amari, I wouldn't say is. I mean, and there weren't a lot of people who was a shot maker like Bub was, especially last year for Pitt. But what Amari is, he's a really tough two-way presence of a guard who can play on or off the ball. I would envision him playing a little bit more on the ball at the college ranks,
Got
and
it.
not so in a sense of, hey, you're our primary option. You're who the offense is going to run through. And Amari even knows that. It's more so, hey, I'm the initiator. So let me get us in the sets. I can start the break. Um, but I mean, if you watch him with his St. John's team, you see him with DC Premier. He's
Right.
going to do a lot of the ball handling, or the majority of it. But St. John's, he's gonna split it up, and that's where you can really see his versatility. I think that's where a lot of the high major programs really saw his value. The modern day of the basketball, what teams are emphasizing is versatility and positionless basketball, and that's what Omari brings. Um, he's just an efficient playmaker. He's got the size at the guard position and then just really good instincts off the ball defensively, presence on the glass. So just kind of a do-it-all guard that just needs polish and in, pretty much every area that a lot of freshmen do. Um, but he's definitely a guy who, he shot up boards quickly. So he went from
Right.
not a lot of people knowing about him, maybe a guy who would, go star for a George Mason and then a high major scratching their head when he becomes a sophomore. Why weren't we on this kid? To
Mm.
now he's on the big stage. And, obviously the schools that are involved with him, they're all hoping for, their names to be said tomorrow.
Yeah. So, like you said, he had a crowded recruitment recently, like had a bunch of visits pop up, high majors calling, high majors offering him. Released that top 10, cut it down to three. You placed a crystal ball pick prediction for him to end up at Pitt. Why did you place that? And what's going on in his recruitment that makes you think Pitt's going to be the choice tomorrow?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at his top three, all have DMV ties. Maryland, you don't need to go too deep into that. They're the hometown school.
Right.
Amari took the unofficial to Maryland prior to going to Vanderbilt. Um, and that visit really sat with him. So in terms of, is this a completely done deal? I'm not sure, but my thing is the Maryland visit definitely left a huge impression on him. Then he went down to Vanderbilt. And they have DMV ties within the staff down there with Xavier Joyner. He's going to do a great job. There's going to be DMV guys going down to Vanderbilt, if not this year, in the following years for sure.
Right. And
And I think the appeal with Vanderbilt was again like, hey, we're a new staff, it's a new culture. We can kind of give you the ball to initiate our offense, and
Mm.
you're going to be a dynamic defender. It's the SEC. I know that caught Omari's attention. And then he went to Pitt. And I think where Pitt has a leg up is obviously, the proof is in the pudding with what they did with Bub.
Right.
Jalen Lowe is a name that you're seeing on draft boards already. And I think it's expected for him to have a big year. So you take those two freshmen, guards who came in with each other, had a ton of opportunity and experience, and now they are, getting chances at the highest levels. That's appealing to Omari, and I think that he wants a chance to play right away.
Right.
And whereas, that might be a good opportunity at Vanderbilt for sure. Maryland's room is a little bit more crowded. They went, in the portal, they got Jacoby Gillespie, they got, Rodney Rice, Malachi Palmer, Deshaun Harris-Smith. The list goes on, but it's a little crowded in that guard room. You look at Pitt and the opportunities that could arise from that, plus their plan that already played out in front of everybody.
Right.
Um, I just think their pitch is a little bit stronger, and that's why I submitted a crystal ball for Pitt.
Gotcha. I mean, super detailed answer. I appreciate that. They're clearly targeting several DMV guys. Like I said, Milan Brown's got those ties for Pitt. It's interesting about the Vandy staff. I didn't really think about those ties with Joyner and the JMU guys that went over to Vandy. So they're clearly still in play. Maryland as well. That's his top three. But pivoting over to the other top prospect from the DMV that is considering Pitt that many believe is favoring Pitt at this point in the recruitment process. Derek Dixon, a guy out of Gonzaga Prep. Uh, Probably, I said on a show last week, I think he's right up near the top of Pitt's wish list in terms of the 7 guys that Pitt's on top school list for right now. But Derek just got off a visit to North Carolina, blue blood program. Still looking to go to Arizona, I believe, was in his schedule before a commitment date coming up probably in the next few weeks. I saw September 27th was reported by Adam Zagoria. So, what is the latest in Derek Dixon's recruitment after this North Carolina visit?
Yeah, so I mean, Derek is going to commit on September 27th. That's his
Okay.
birthday. So he wants to hold true to that. Just coming off the visit to North Carolina, when he first got offered by North Carolina, if you ever had talked to Derek, he's not a guy who's going to show his cards and emotion on his face.
Mm,
Even when he got the Carolina offer, he lit up a little bit. Who wouldn't? They're a blue blood program, and North Carolina is North Carolina. So, I caught up with Derek yesterday, just to kind of recap the visit. I think it definitely sat with him. I think the tradition, and his connection with Hubert Davis, where I didn't really think he got a chance to really do that yet in the recruiting process.
right,
I think that was a great opportunity for them to really learn how each other are and how they're wired as people. And I think that plays into the Tar Heels' advantage pretty well. And obviously, North Carolina is a program that you have to sell, but the same thing with Omari is what Derek's looking for. He wants to play as a freshman,
right,
and you're looking at what they're looking at next year. Now, obviously, RJ Davis, he'll be gone. Ellie Cadeau, jury's kind of still out on there. Maybe he has a spectacular year,
right.
and he goes to the draft. Maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe he looks to hop in the portal, which I'm sure you will be one of the first to report if that's the case. But but yeah, man. So it's interesting there. The allure is there. You can never get who's going to count out North Carolina in any recruiting battle. I think they're definitely in the thick of it.
Mm,
Um, Shifting gears to maybe some other schools who again, this is just me, that I believe have a chance.
mm.
You go to Pitt, I'll touch on them in a second, but Virginia's still in there. And Derek has always had an interest in Virginia. I think we're going to see a lot more news come out about just them some sort of revamping their offensive system to become a
Yeah.
little bit you know more appealing to these recruits in terms of playing up and down. We're not going to have a 50 to 45 final score of a game. Let's get up and down. Let's shoot some threes. Let's bring some excitement. Because let's face it, the guys that they're in the running for, they're gonna have to, because those
Right,
guys
right,
aren't gonna really dig their heels in defensively and pride themselves on that end of the floor. That's it. But so I definitely think Virginia's still in there and in the running. But then you go to Pitt, and I think it's over 700 days now that the Pitt staff has been recruiting
right.
Derek Dixon. And what I will say about Derek is he's a loyal kid. Um, and he hangs his hat on loyalty. He's not a kid that's worried about all the social media hype. So that thought of going to a blue blood is not, I wouldn't say, a really major factor of like, oh, blue bloods are getting involved. We're done here, and that's
Yeah,
it. That's why, and throughout Derek's ascent, because you go back a couple of springs ago, again, he was just a mid-major name at that point. Now he's coming
right.
off his sophomore year, but everybody just thought that he was a shooter. Now he got the ball put in his hands as a team takeover 16U, and everything blew up. And the high majors started coming in. Pitt was one of the first ones. They never wavered. I would say Milan Brown has done an excellent job with that pursuit and put them in the best position along with the big dogs of getting Derek. But from now until the 27th, that's 17 days, George. Like, everything can change in a day
Oh yeah.
in we cover. So while, Pitt may lead now, who knows what's to hold in 2 weeks. However, I like where they stand, and Pitt's in the mix for a lot of other guys as well.
Right,
So they're going to get somebody, but their pitch, again, just like Omari, is say, hey, Derek, Omari, Bub, Jalen, let's
right.
do it again.
Yeah.
And with Derek, man, I mean, just touching on his game. Obviously, he's an excellent shooter. He's an excellent shot maker. Over these past couple years, though, he's really proven himself as a floor. I would say he can manage a game.
Okay.
I wouldn't say he's a true floor general per se, because he still is a massive threat to score with the ball. But his progression in terms of controlling the pace, making split second reads, and then controlling the game from the defensive side as a point guard, just extremely valuable. And that's why these schools are really, really hoping he says their name.
He's a winner too. He led that team takeover program I read to I believe 20-2 record this spring and summer. Averaged nearly 14 points per game at Peach Jam. So did it on the biggest stage of high school of AAU hoops this summer. It'd be really. I mean, I was talking with someone last week. Like this would be a massive recruiting win for Milan Brown and Jeff Capel. Like that competition against North Carolina. I know Pitt fans watching this are all going to remember RJ Davis. And they really thought they had RJ Davis locked in here. Chooses North Carolina, becomes a Pitt killer down there in Chapel Hill. So this will be a huge win to beat out the Tar Heels and Arizona and everything they have to offer, as well as Virginia, Tony Bennett. There's a lot going on in this recruitment. Like you said, 17 days we can really see anything happen here in the next few weeks. I mean, we've even seen it's pretty funny with all these top school lists coming out. Like kids are just adding schools to the list like after, and it's kind of recruitment's working backwards in some ways. But Colby, thank you so much for joining me today. Everybody, go follow Colby on Twitter. He is the guy. I'm telling you. For DMV hoops, and there's a lot of DMV hoops coverage that pertains to Pitt. So, Colby, thank you again, and we'll be in touch soon, man.
George, thanks, man. Keep up the great work.
All right, see you, man.